How to remember words. Lily stared at her English textbook, a wave of frustration washing over her. Every new word felt like a tiny, slippery fish, impossible to grasp and even harder to retain. She often wondered, why do I always make mistakes? Her confidence plummeted with each stumbled sentence, making conversations feel like climbing a steep, unforgiving mountain. She yearned for fluency, for the ability to express herself without that nagging fear of error. Initially, Lily tried brute force memorization, scribbling vocabulary lists endlessly. However, words remained isolated, devoid of context, disappearing from her mind as quickly as they appeared on the page. She realized that merely repeating words like a parrot offered no real understanding, no genuine connection to their meaning or proper usage. This method was clearly ineffective and profoundly disheartening for her. Then, a wise old mentor suggested a different approach: immerse yourself in reading. At first, Lily was skeptical, thinking it too passive. But her mentor explained, why reading is so important isn't just about absorbing information, it's about seeing words alive in their natural habitat. This simple advice began to shift Lily's entire perspective on language acquisition. She started with simple stories, then gradually moved to more complex articles. As she read, she noticed how words were used, their subtle nuances and connections to other words. This contextual understanding drastically improved her ability to remember words, as they were no longer isolated facts but parts of a larger, coherent narrative, making them stick. Lily didn't just passively read, she actively engaged with the text. She highlighted unfamiliar words, tried to guess their meanings from context, and only then looked them up. She kept a journal, not just for definitions, but for example sentences she found in her reading, cementing her understanding and showing her how other people talk in English. She discovered that learning English through stories was not only effective but incredibly enjoyable. A very interesting story captivated her attention, making the learning process feel less like a chore and more like an adventure. The characters, plots, and emotional arcs made vocabulary and grammar memorable without conscious effort. It was truly transformative. Beyond reading, Lily began to consciously observe how other people talk in English. She paid attention to their intonation, their common phrases, and the rhythm of their speech. Podcasts, movies, and even casual conversations became valuable learning opportunities, offering insights into natural, flowing English beyond the textbook rigidity. She would often mimic the speakers she heard, trying to replicate their accents and speech patterns. This wasn't about losing her own accent, but about understanding the mechanics of English pronunciation. It helped her grasp how to talk in English more smoothly, bridging the gap between passive listening and active speaking. This was a crucial step. Despite her growing knowledge, the fear of making mistakes still lingered. Lily knew that to truly improve her English, she needed to speak. But the thought of public embarrassment was paralyzing. This common hurdle often prevented many learners from progressing, and Lily felt its weight acutely every single day. Then came the revelation of talking to herself. How to talk at home to yourself, she wondered initially, feeling a bit silly. But it quickly became her secret weapon. Alone in her room, she could experiment with new words and phrases without any fear of judgment or correction from others. It was liberating. She started narrating her daily activities aloud. I am making coffee now. The water is boiling. I need to add sugar. Simple sentences, but spoken with intention. She described objects, expressed opinions, and even rehearsed imaginary conversations. This consistent practice built muscle memory for her mouth and brain. Lily also used self-talk to practice challenging grammar structures. If she was learning the conditional tense, she'd create hypothetical scenarios and talk herself through them. If I had more time, I would read another book. This active application made abstract rules tangible and much easier to internalize for fluid communication. She began to understand why I always make mistakes was not a sign of failure, but a natural part of the learning journey. Each error became a valuable lesson, a signpost guiding her towards greater accuracy. She stopped fearing mistakes and started embracing them as opportunities for growth, fueling her motivation. This shift in mindset was monumental for how to improve your English. Perfection became less of a goal than clear communication. She realized that native speakers also made errors, stutters, and corrected themselves. This realization alleviated immense pressure, allowing her to speak more freely and confidently than ever before. Her reading vocabulary expanded exponentially, and her listening comprehension sharpened. She could now follow complex plots in her favorite English novels and understand nuanced discussions in podcasts. This synergy between reading and listening created a rich linguistic environment within her mind, fostering deep learning organically and powerfully. Any new words or phrases she encountered in her reading or listening, she immediately tried to integrate into her self-talk. This immediate application ensured the words moved from passive recognition to active production. It solidified their place in her active vocabulary, making them readily available for spontaneous use in conversation. The sheer joy of understanding a very interesting story entirely in English was incredibly motivating. She wasn't just reading words, she was experiencing narratives, feeling emotions, and connecting with ideas on a deeper level. This emotional engagement made the language learning process incredibly rewarding and self-sustaining for her. As her confidence grew through self-talk, Lily felt more prepared to interact with others. Her internal practice had built a strong foundation, allowing her to transition from talking at home to herself to engaging in real-life conversations with less hesitation and greater fluency and accuracy in her daily interactions. Her first few conversations were still a bit shaky, but she noticed a significant difference. She could retrieve words faster, structure sentences more coherently, and even self-correct minor errors mid-sentence. These early successes fueled her motivation to seek out more opportunities to speak English and expand her horizons. Lily understood that consistency was key. Learning English wasn't a sprint but a marathon, requiring daily effort, even if just for a few minutes. Whether it was reading a chapter, listening to a podcast, or 5 minutes of self-talk, she committed to touching the language every single day, building momentum. There were days when she felt she wasn't progressing, experiencing frustrating plateaus. But she reminded herself of the journey, of how far she had come. She reread old journals, marveling at her initial struggles compared to her current abilities, which served as powerful reminders to persist through challenges. Her natural curiosity became a powerful driving force. She started exploring topics she genuinely cared about in English, from history documentaries to cooking blogs. This intrinsic motivation made learning feel less like a duty and more like an exciting exploration of the world through a new linguistic lens. As she listened more, she began to recognize the nuances of how other people talk in English, distinguishing between different accents and regional dialects. This deepened her appreciation for the diversity of the language and enhanced her overall listening comprehension skills significantly, making her a more versatile learner. She learned the difference between passive listening, background noise, and active listening, engaging with the content, trying to understand every word. Active listening during her podcasts and movies dramatically improved her ear for English, making conversations easier to follow and participate in effectively. Her journey taught her that memorizing isolated words was largely ineffective. Instead, she focused on learning chunks of language, common phrases, collocations, and idiomatic expressions. This approach allowed her to speak more naturally, mimicking how native speakers construct their sentences with inherent fluidity. To truly remember words, she realized, one must connect them to personal experiences or vivid mental images. For example, if she learned ephemeral, she'd imagine a fleeting rainbow. This mnemonic technique made vocabulary stick far more effectively than simple flashcards, creating stronger memory links. Her vocabulary notebook transformed from a simple list to a treasure trove of example sentences, personal anecdotes, and even doodles related to new words. This creative approach made reviewing vocabulary a joy rather than a chore, reinforcing her understanding and active recall for her daily use. Lily diversified her learning materials, moving beyond just textbooks. She explored English news articles, academic papers, and even social media conversations. This varied exposure ensured she encountered a wide range of vocabulary and grammatical structures, preparing her for any real-world interaction. She learned that growth often happens outside her comfort zone. Venturing into unfamiliar topics or attempting complex sentences might feel awkward initially, but it was precisely these challenges that pushed her boundaries and led to significant improvements in her overall English proficiency and confidence levels. Lily became an astute observer of natural English conversation. She noticed how pauses were used, how speakers interrupted or agreed, and the subtle cues that signaled turn-taking. This keen observation helped her to talk in English more like a native speaker, not just grammatically correct but socially appropriate too. Understanding that not all English is formal, she began to learn common slang and informal expressions. She observed how other people talk in English in casual settings, realizing that textbooks often missed this vital aspect of everyday communication. This added another layer of authenticity to her speech. Idioms were particularly challenging, but she discovered that reading a very interesting story often provided the perfect context for understanding them. Seeing an idiom used naturally in a narrative made its meaning clearer than any dictionary definition ever could, embedding it firmly in her memory. Lily realized that how to learn English was not a destination but an ongoing journey. There would always be new words, new expressions, and new nuances to discover. This realization brought a sense of peace, freeing her from the pressure of achieving perfect fluency overnight. Stories, she found, were the ultimate memory aid. The human brain is wired for narratives, and when information is embedded within a story, it becomes infinitely more memorable. Learning English through stories transformed her retention rate and made the process profoundly engaging and effective. She had a few go-to very interesting story books that she revisited often. Each reread unveiled new layers of meaning, new vocabulary, and solidified previously learned concepts. These familiar narratives became comfort zones for pushing her language boundaries, making progress feel achievable. The question why I always make mistakes gradually faded, replaced by "how can I learn from this mistake?" This proactive mindset was a monumental shift. She started viewing errors not as personal failings but as valuable data points guiding her toward mastery, celebrating small improvements. Talking at home to herself gave her an unparalleled confidence boost. When she finally spoke to others, it felt less like a first attempt and more like a performance she had already rehearsed countless times. This mental preparation significantly reduced her anxiety and enhanced her verbal output. She learned that speed wasn't as important as clarity. Rather than rushing and making more mistakes, she focused on speaking at a comfortable, deliberate pace. This allowed her brain time to formulate thoughts and retrieve words, resulting in more coherent and accurate spoken English. Observing how other people talk in English also influenced her own speaking style. She noticed common conversational fillers, polite interjections, and ways to express agreement or disagreement smoothly. She began incorporating these naturally, making her sound more integrated into the language. Before a job interview or an important meeting, Lily would rehearse specific scenarios aloud. She'd anticipate questions and formulate answers, practicing her responses multiple times. This strategic self-talk was incredibly effective for boosting her confidence and ensuring she was prepared for any situation. She realized that good pronunciation was crucial not just for sounding native, but for being understood clearly. She used online resources and listened intently to native speakers to refine her sounds, knowing that even minor improvements could significantly impact her overall intelligibility. Her listening skills evolved from trying to catch every word to focusing on key information and overall meaning. This made understanding faster and less mentally taxing. She learned to infer context, which is a vital skill in real-world conversations with varying accents and speeds. Learning English opened up a world of new connections and cultures. She could now communicate with people from diverse backgrounds, understanding their stories and sharing her own. This cross-cultural exchange became one of the most rewarding aspects of her language journey. Why reading is so important extends beyond vocabulary. It's a window into culture. Through books, Lily gained insights into different societies, historical events, and philosophical ideas expressed in English. It enriched her understanding of the world, making her a more globally aware individual. She consciously sought out authentic materials, not just textbooks. Real-life conversations, news broadcasts, and original literature provided a more genuine exposure to the language as it's truly used, preparing her for the unpredictable nature of everyday communication in English. Gradually, the fear of judgment from others diminished. She realized that most people appreciated her effort and willingness to communicate in English. This positive feedback loop further encouraged her to speak more, knowing that mistakes were part of the shared human experience. To remember words, she actively practiced recall rather than just recognition. Instead of passively looking at a word and its definition, she'd try to recall the word from its meaning, or use it in a sentence. This active engagement strengthened her memory pathways significantly. Lily found ways to incorporate English into almost every aspect of her day. She switched her phone language, labeled household items, and even thought in English while doing chores. This constant immersion accelerated her learning far beyond structured study sessions. Sometimes, she even tried explaining English concepts to imaginary students during her self-talk sessions. This active teaching forced her to articulate rules and vocabulary clearly, revealing gaps in her own understanding and solidifying her knowledge deeply. Throughout her journey, Lily learned to celebrate every small victory, understanding a new idiom, completing a sentence without hesitation, or having a successful conversation. These small celebrations fueled her motivation and reminded her of the tangible progress she was making constantly. Her journey from frustration to fluency was a testament to perseverance. Now, when Lily spoke English, it wasn't just about conveying information, it was about expressing herself with confidence, personality, and genuine connection. She had truly mastered how to talk in English effectively. While she had come incredibly far, Lily knew the journey of learning English never truly ends. There was always more to explore, more to understand, and more opportunities to refine her skills. She embraced this continuous process with enthusiasm, always seeking new challenges. Her improved English opened doors to new opportunities, from international friendships to career advancements. The language became a bridge, connecting her to a wider world and enriching her life in countless unforeseen ways, proving the immense value of her dedicated efforts. Lily often shared her story, encouraging others who felt stuck or overwhelmed. She emphasized that anyone could learn English if they adopted the right strategies and maintained a positive mindset, especially embracing mistakes as stepping stones to greater fluency. Her journey was a powerful reminder that language acquisition is a deeply personal and transformative experience. It's not just about memorizing rules, but about building confidence, fostering curiosity, and discovering the joy of true communication. Lily's English story was far from over. So, when asked how to improve your English, Lily always smiled and said, "Read a lot, listen intently, talk to yourself, and never fear making a mistake." Each error is a lesson learned, propelling you closer to the fluency you truly desire. This was her ultimate wisdom. And remember, learn English through stories. A very interesting story will always be your best teacher, unlocking words and grammar naturally, making the entire process enjoyable and effortlessly memorable. Let the narratives guide your way to linguistic mastery every single day.